All right. Thank you for tuning in. Any given Sunday sports special. It's your boy Jesus. I got Steve.
What's going on, everybody?
I got my man Anthony with me. Where you at, Ant?
Thibodeau.
By the way, we're having a nice little basketball talk before we went ahead and went live with this. We want to go ahead again. Thank everyone. I hope everybody's staying healthy, staying strong. It's been a brutal couple months. And all I could just say is I hope everybody and their family is fighting through it, getting through this. I do believe there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's just far, far away, that tunnel right now, sadly. But I want to bring some fun. I want to bring some joy. Me and Steve, hopefully we'll go at it a couple times, make you guys laugh, and just help you forget about everything else that's happening out there. And then Anthony will probably jump in with his normal who cares responses.
Pretty much. You see my head's down, like I'm just looking at a text like, all right, carry on.
We're going to have some fun with this. Well, we're going to start off with the East, and then after the East, we're going to jump over to the West. It'll probably be a two episode set. And again, I want to have some real fun with this. If you look at, we all have backgrounds. I have my background specifically. That's for you, Dom. Yeah, I'm going to just leave it at that. Let's get right to it. We're going to start off with the East. On the East side of things, and if I'm not mistaken, let's start off with my team, I guess. I'm looking at the sheet here. My team's the first one up top. Steve, right now, if everything goes the way people are predicting, the way I'm predicting, Powers are expected to keep Patrick Mahomes, Mark Andrews, Kenny Galladay, and Chris Godwin, which would put them at $189 and those four players. Let me hear your thoughts if you feel they should go differently, and then Anthony, we'll pass it on to you afterwards.
No, yeah. So I think it's a good spot. And so the context that I want to start this conversation off is I think a lot of things are going to change, especially even more so for this draft. So assuming we have a season, assuming things go off, assuming NFL figures out the safety protocols, one thing is that all of these GMs, including myself, we're all going to have to figure out the COVID factor, which means paying the days of paying for a $80+ player becomes even much higher of a risk, only because like you can't afford for that guy to get COVID or let alone his team get COVID and affect you. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jesus, I think you started that off. I mean, I am very surprised that Lewis, that he let that trade go for $15 for Chris Godwin. That's mind blowing for me. Because, you know, this is the type of stuff that honestly, if you can make deals like this, it honestly helps significantly. It helps the Powers out to take a hit. So if Godwin does catch COVID or, you know, a Bucs player catches COVID, all right, he could roll out with a Galladay, he could roll out with somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think where the roster is constructed, the fact that you got Patrick Mahomes for $1 is huge. 198 in cap is still basically saying like you're starting at the cap, you know, the draft.
189. I'm sorry, 189.
Oh, 189. But even still, 189, you're only $11 off from full cap, and all those players. It's built for good success. What I'm interested to see is what you do with the rest of the money, and if you do get caught up in the higher bids up front, because that's where ultimately somebody's going to make a mistake in this draft by getting and falling in love with a player and bidding too big. I'm not saying you have a history of doing this, but it's going to be hard because there are going to be times, and I do feel that, you know, a league kind of thinks along the same lines, you know. So if I'm saying it, I know everybody else has already been thinking about this. It's going to be interesting when a guy is looking like a said deal out there, and then you're like, oh, man, but I could put him with Mahomes and this person and that person. And you do that, but inadvertently, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know how the rest of the draft's going to play out. So that's,
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Those are the interesting things for me. I'll turn it back to you guys. I mean, I think you're in a very solid spot, but in terms of like pieces the add, you know, I'm really interested to see what you're going to do with the first 10 picks. Because if you're not involved with the first 10 picks, then I would say that regardless, you're already ahead of the draft. But if you get involved with those early top 10 picks, how involved are you and how much do you spend? That's the question that I'm dying to know.
Okay. Anthony, you up.
You're going to be fine. Move on.
Like I said, who cares? That's Anthony.
No, I'm serious. Like, I can see if there wasn't a time you were never really in like the mix. Like you weren't in a championship or close to it. Your team's competitive every year. You know how to draft properly. You're always aggressive when trying to like acquire players. And like I said, more than anything else, you got Patrick Mahomes for $1. I don't really care about the rest of your roster. I mean, it's great that you have Chris Godwin. All right, fantastic deal. I don't know how it worked out, but it did. But when you have Patrick Mahomes for $1, after that, everything else is like gravy because I know what I'm going to get from him.
Yep.
And I know what I'm going to get from that offense. So let's say you keep him. Well, that's not even let's say you're going to keep him.
I'm going to keep him. Yeah, exactly.
Now you have Galladay. You going to keep Galladay?
I intend to. That's a thought. That's a thought.
Yeah, that's a thought.
That's why I have him out there right now as a keeper.
And you also have Godwin.
But Anthony, I want to interject. Here's the question that I have for you. If you're in his spot, do you go after Saquon Barkley if he's, say, $60 or $55 this year?
Yes, without hesitating. No, yes.
Even with COVID.
Which is the stress though. And I'm gonna jump in here with Anthony. This draft is going to be my toughest draft I've ever had. My one weakness, and you guys can attest to this, is I fall in love with players prior to the draft. I say, this is my guy. This is who I want. I'm going to go get him. I'm not able to do that this year. And if I do, I'm going to get myself in big trouble. This draft is a perfect draft for an Anthony because Anthony puts his price on a guy. And if that price goes above it, he moves on. He does not care. Steve, you and I, we go into last year for you, it was Kamara. Last year for me, it was I wanted to get Saquon from you. And it was like, and it's always somebody every year. The year before that, I think it was Odell for me and, et cetera, et cetera. We always fall in love. Anthony's the one guy in this league who does not fall in love.
He will not,
has his number, and that's what it is. So you and I are really going to be tested in this year's draft. And that's why I have some major decisions to make. Because if I do the fall in love, then obviously what I would do, I would just keep Saquon, right? Because $64, don't have to worry about that anymore, and I'm good to go with him.
But is 64 the right? Yeah, is that the right number for a COVID season? Yeah, we don't know.
It's a brutal decision because all it takes is a man to get COVID. He has to quarantine for 14 days. That means you're losing that guy for at least 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks. It's gonna suck. It's gonna suck.
My number one draft pick is going to be COVID. It's going to be undefeated. Nobody beating COVID.
No, not even a damn vaccine, damn it.
Taking out everybody, every week.
We all take
the final thought that I want to add before we move on to the next team is it's really going – I think this year more than ever, you can't say anybody has a dying edge because honestly, if there were 1 year where the draft really mattered – it's absolutely this year, whether you have 5 players on your roster or you're starting the draft off with 0, because it's really gonna depend on those other 9 teams on how they draft and how you react to that. Because you're either gonna get really screwed up front or you're gonna get really screwed on the back end because everybody didn't spend their money and now you have to spend your money on something. So it's gonna be a very interesting year. And you're going to have people coming at different angles. And you're going to see, I guarantee you, we're going to see prices where we're going to be like, that shouldn't have happened. You know what I mean?
Because everybody's going to want depth this year. Everybody's going to want depth. It's correct. So important this year. I can't wait for Dom to go ahead and ask to expand the rosters in AGS.
Not happening. Not happening.
All right, next one up. I want to go ahead and I want to bring up my man Anthony. He's here. Let's have a nice little conversation about him and his roster. So the way Anthony's roster, we currently look at it, he has several options, right? He has Odell Beckham at 70. He has David Johnson at 40, DeAndre Hopkins at 27, Evan Ingram at 3, Alshon Jeffrey at 14, Curtis Samuel at 3, James White at 10. He's not going to do pass defense at $1, although after how good they were last year, who knows? The Geis at 18, Prescott at 3, and then Jalen Samuel at 3. I'm going to go ahead real quick. I'm going to just tell you what I think he's going to do. What I think makes the most sense is going to be DeAndre Hopkins at 27, Evan Ingram at 3, and then Dak Prescott at 23. Because I say 23 because you add in that tax. Now, if he's smart, he'll make a move so he doesn't have to pay that $20 tax, and then Dak Prescott becomes that much more appealing to you. but that's kind of where I would go with it. And again, this falls in line with the fact that he doesn't fall in love with players. This is going to give him a lot of opportunity. He'll have $147 to play with. If he does this, he'll have $167 potentially if he can find a way to ship off a player or two, possibly even more money depending on how much cash he gets back. He's in a really good spot if he just sticks to his focus, which is I'm not going to fall in love with anybody. Whoever lands on my team is going to be there, and that's it.
Yeah, and I do think that Anthony will do a deal. I just don't envision him eating the tax on that. And what I'd say he's definitely going to stick with DeAndre Hopkins because, I mean, he's just been proven a fantasy stud. And he's really serious about his craft. So he's truthfully, Hopkins is one of the dudes that I just, for some reason, I don't picture catching COVID because he's hard at work. That's just the type of guy he is. Like if you follow him, the guy is a work.
That's the curse of death. He just threw it at you right there, and I just want you to know that.
I'm just saying, man. But in terms of the rest of the roster, I do think he'll move on. Truthfully, if it were me, I'd probably just keep Prescott for a $3 price tag to give you roughly probably anywhere from top 5 to top 7 production amongst QBs. I mean, you can't really complain with that. And you're already ahead of the curve right there. And then assuming he finds, I mean, I'm pretty sure he can make a profit somewhere. So you add roughly minimally, 20 plus to the cap, for him to play around with. I think it bodes really well for Anthony. And I tend to agree with you. We've seen in the past that Anthony is very hard on a number and he won't tell anybody that number, but damn it, if you go $1 past it, you're stuck with that guy, unless you really wanted him. So I think it bodes well for him. A trade that I'd like to see him do it with, probably a cap-rich team, or a team without any solid rosters, which we'll go through it a little bit later. Not a team with 5-6 potential keepers already, but I'm just saying that's I think Anthony's in good shape. I'll turn it to you.
I'm open for business, Ant. All right, but go ahead.
No, you're open for business, man. Can't have no heart in the pimp game. Sorry. Hey, you can't overvalue people just because you like them or you like the team or you like the player. If they come at a particular cost, you have to take advantage of it. The reason why I generally just don't kind of go like all in for a particular guy, because I learned my lesson that one year I had Cam and I got burned. And I was like, I went against my nature. I know exactly how much I want to spend for a guy and what needs to go where. Let's make life easy. Let's put these things in order. Once I have this marked off, then I know where to go from here. So the plan is Hopkins isn't going anywhere. Fellas, I appreciate the calls. Honestly, I do. Like you're giving solid effort towards it. He's not going anywhere. We're married. We're like this.
For the record, I've never asked him about Hopkins.
Not you. We're speaking of other people. We do not put names. All deals in silence.
Excuse me.
And like I said, the Ingram and Dak combo, it might be the way that I go with, because in reality, I understand the whole idea of that, you might come in with slightly less cap. And like I said, I can work some deals and maybe see what I can get out on the back end. But what it really comes down to quite simply is that if I'm set at have a top 5-ish quarterback, a top 5-ish wide receiver, and a top 5-ish tight end, I really need to back and kind of fill in the gaps.
Yep.
And it's good to get those guys for the low while you can. Like I said, like the idea of getting, like I said, when I go against my nature, sometimes mistakes happen. I really thought Odell was going to have a great year. And at $70, you would think so. Didn't quite work out. David Johnson looked great the year before, like 40, it's a steal. And all of a sudden his complete world falls apart. But this is what happens. You go against your nature. When you fall in love with something, just don't do it. Going in with a plan just like I do. There's a set limit for a guy. If you get one guy for less than me, you can put $1 or $2 towards another guy. It's got to come up with a functional plan, but I think my roster is pretty much set. It's probably going to be those 3 guys. Like I said, the other pieces might be on the move. I'm not keeping the Patriots defense. It sounds like a good idea, but that fluctuates from year to year.
Absolutely.
And we just don't know. There's going to be somebody to be on top. I mean, the last time this really ever happens when Seattle was at the Legion of Boom stage, but outside of that, it's just here today, gone tomorrow. But yeah, I'm pretty much going to roll with what you guys are talking about. That's been my plan from the beginning. I am open for business, so if you got something that just blows me away where I can't say no to it, I'm probably going to say no to it anyway, but you can try. But yeah, I feel pretty strong about my team.
Okay. All right, we're gonna jump into the next team. The next team we're gonna talk about is Lewis, who took over Savage Gang. So we look at his roster, right? He has options where he can go with. Let's remind you, everybody, he sold Chris Godwin, so he can only keep two.
Mm-hmm.
So he made $8 profit off of that. So he could do Connor, Zeke, Julio, Dede Westbrook, AJ Green, or Phillip Rivers. You want to know pricing on that? Connor is 38, Zeke is 43, Julio is 54, Dede is 15, AJ Green is 13, and then Phillip Rivers is 4. I actually am predicting he's going to do Zeke Elliott and Julio Jones, which would leave him at $111 and those two players. I'll let Anthony. You haven't gone first yet, Ant. So I'm going to give you the floor on this one. What do you think he's going to do, and what shouldn't he do?
That's the most sensible thing for him to do. Like, you have James Conner, he's 38. You have Zeke Elliott, who's 43, so he's $5 more.
Yep.
That's just cash wise, but production wise, he's way better than that.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, like guys are paying $60, $70 for running backs, and he's going for 43. You have to keep that. Mm-hmm. And the thing with Atlanta is I don't trust any of those running backs. I know that they have Calvin Ridley, but like I said, they're always going to be like a very pass-centric offense. Even after Mike Shanahan left, is just what they do. The reason why Matt Ryan is always generally in the top 10 every year is like literally like a running back. It's just volume. They air it out all the time. They don't have what do they have now? Ito Smith and maybe some other guys, and none of them really impress me. So they're still going to go to it. And the thing about Julio is that all you're worried about is that you just want him to get into the end zone. Now, you will hope that just kind of regression that it will kind of happen. It hasn't, but like I said, the yardage is there, the catches are there, the talents are there. And like I said, he gets those 2 or 3 games a year where he just explodes. And if this might possibly be a shortened season, that really is going to come in handy. And everyone else on this roster, I just don't think is worthwhile keeping. You don't keep Westbrook or Connor. AJ Green, no. You got Julio. I mean, AJ is going to be there, but he's going to have a rookie quarterback behind him. And Phillip Rivers, just a $4 guy. I mean, you can get a guy at quarterback. As a matter of fact, you might be able to get Phillip back for less than that if you even want to do so. But Zeke and Julio have to be the only options for him. I can't think of anything else in that roster that's worthwhile for him to do so.
Steve, you're up.
Yeah, I would disagree on the AJ one. I honestly think he should stick with Ezekiel Elliott and AJ Green, and here's why. Ezekiel Elliott at 43 is still a phenomenal price. Normally, Zeke on an open market without COVID gets you around 60 to 65 easily, so there's built-in value there. Julio, I think, is priced at what he's worth, and with the risk of the season today, I just think you're carrying a lot of risk. If Julio, does happen or catch COVID or whatnot, that's a huge price to kind of eat for 2-3 games. AJ Green's the safer play. And I'm saying this because AJ Green at 13 could still produce if he's healthy. He could still get you a pretty high output for the 13. It's a simple mathematics in terms of value versus what you're committing into the pot, right? And for $13, if you could, get yourself potentially, and I know AJ hasn't been the same for a while, but let's just assume he can get back to around the top 10-ish, top 15-ish, bottom end of that. Like that's a steal for $13. For Julio for 54, he's got to at least be top 5 or it's not worth the money. So that's where I feel like if I'm Lewis, I go AJ Green, I go Zeke, I save a little bit money in cap, and then go after more players with the money that you could have put towards Julio Jones or had for Julio Jones at 54. So that's what I think he should do. I think where he made his big mistake, and it's going to hurt him, is selling Godwin for only an $8 profit. Godwin today on open market, I mean, he's a top 5 receiver. Now, I'm not saying that people would value him the same because you do have Mike Evans on the other side. You are worried, can he repeat the same output? So, you know what I mean? But you can at least justify getting $20 a profit on a Godwin. So I do think he left money there. But if it's me, I do Zeke and Green. Jesus.
I'm going to tell you, knowing who Lewis is, he's not a risk taker when it comes to going for the lesser name to save money. Lewis likes the big name. He likes the big splash. Hence why I don't see a way where he doesn't keep Julio Jones. Normally, here's where I go into my Julio Jones rant about touchdowns and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. He had 6 touchdowns last year. He had 8 the year before that, 3 the year before that, 6 the year before that, 8. He doesn't get double digits. So I understand what you're saying, Steve. I don't want you to think that I disagree with what you're saying. But in knowing who Lewis is, people are going to play to their strengths. Lewis' strength has always been is go after the big name. He doesn't want to have to dangle in those backup mid-tier type of players in fantasy football. That's never been his style. So if you ask him to go get an AJ Green, that's basically you're assuming he's going to be able to build a team that's deep. I've never seen Lewis be able to do that. So if he's doesn't feel comfortable doing it, I wouldn't suggest he do that. I only suggest people do that, people that are like football junkies that live, eat, and breathe football, basically, who know the players in and out. But those people that aren't a football junkie like that, I don't think they should put themselves in those type of situations. So that's why I do think that he is going to go with a Julio Jones, which still leaves him $111. So he's going to have Zeke, he's going to have Julio, and then I do think he's going to go after another big name. I could be dead wrong, but just knowing Lewis, we've seen it before. Remember, he was the first person ever to eclipse the $80 mark with, I think it was Le'Veon Bell years ago when he was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
If I remember that one. He was the first person to ever eclipse.
He was.
He's not scared to spend money. So
yeah,
don't be surprised if he then goes and gets an Alvin Kamara.
I would really advise them this year to just relook at that strategy, and only because, like, again, like there's just so much we don't know in how the season. I mean, guys, we just had breaking news today that the Marlins had. I'm just saying.
Stop mentioning COVID. We're gonna knock this off. Stop that.
You're making me depressed. I told the people we weren't gonna depress them.
Every team he's picked, like, he gonna pick this guy, but he gonna get COVID. Hey, he had 200 yards like here. He gonna get COVID. They're like, relax.
I'm just saying, it's a risk out there.
Look, I understand what you're saying, Steve, but you also have to look at the GM. You're asking Lewis to basically have to do a crazy amount of studying from now until the draft. I get it.
Why not?
But we all have lives too. Let's remember that we all have lives too. So while I do think that makes sense, and yes, Lewis, if you're capable of doing it, I would say go Steve's route. But if you're not, if you don't have the time to do it, don't try to change your game plan and be something that you're not, because that's a recipe for disaster in drafts. Look at Dom all the other years in the past. What's happened to him? He's missed playoffs. He hasn't made championships because he's always tried a different way of drafting. But last year, he kind of had to go back to his drunken days, in a sense, where he wasn't focused on the draft because he had his kid crying. So he wasn't really able to draft as he's fully there. And what happened? He won the championship.
Yeah.
So there's something about that. It's laugh all we want, but it's the truth. It's just, you look at it. He wasn't as focused in last year's draft, and he was able to go ahead and use the free agent market and use his trading and all the other things. That's how. So just make sure that we understand. Yeah, let's use what we're good at. Let's use our strengths. All right. Next team up, I want to go ahead and we're gonna break down. Let's do the Savage Gang. I'm sorry, not Savage Gang. We'll do Sean's team, Slap Sauce. Let's break them down. So if we're looking at Sean's team, he did trade away Juju Smith for $55, I believe it was, or $50. I'm sorry, for $50. So he has a ton of options to keep. Carlos Hyde at $3, Cam Newton at $1, Kelsey at 26, Henry at 29, Watson at 25, Coleman at 12, Zerline at 5, Rams defense at 3, Tyler Lockett at 17, Vance McDonald at 4, Landry at 13, Watkins at 1, Breeze at 9, and Duke Johnson at 12. I honestly, what I think he's going to do and what I have him set up as is Derrick Henry at 29, Travis Kelsey at 26. With the $30 profit that he made off of the trade, that puts him at $175 in those two guys. Steve, you're up to go first. What you got?
Yeah, I've been, watching Sean the past 2 years. I think he's going to do exceptionally well in this draft. And the reason why is you look at those numbers on what he drafted, that is exactly what he's going to be this year, which plays to his hand perfectly. And I think he'll probably get some better players that No, I'm serious, man. He might get some better players that you're just like, how did he get that?
You
know what I
pissing
mean?
Anthony
At like
off right
26, 29. It is. It's literally it's gonna be Anthony and him back and forth on these like, all right, who can get the better deal? All right, I'm passing. You know what I mean? I'm moving on. So I'm actually I think Sean can go a lot of options. I mean, it does make the most sense that Henry and Kelsey should be the two because there's great value there. But in terms of like, he could go down that list and there's so many other value options there. And on top of that, I think he's going to do literally the same thing he did last year. And you're going to see, again, you're going to see a $17 player who's decent here, a $12 player there. So I think it's going to be more of the same. He is one of my surprise teams that I think is actually going to be much better off this year because of the way he drafted. And I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but Sean's drafting game has actually gotten better year over year. So he is one of the sleeper teams that I feel if he gets it all together this year, you could see him make a pretty deep run for the playoffs.
I was going to go next, but Anthony was giving you a lot of words there.
Fuming.
So I got to hear Anthony. Go ahead, man.
Ain't no hearing me, man. Ever since he came in the league and started with that champ jazz, me and him ain't never really been seen eye to eye after that. Every time, oh, good job, champ. You got the chance. Like, okay. Everybody want to be cute all of a sudden. So I'll keep it short. He's keeping Kelsey. He's keeping Henry. Go ahead to Jesus.
All right. That was quick. And he must know we're tight on time right now. Yeah, so he is going to keep Henry. I assume he's going to keep Henry and he's going to keep Kelsey. Along with that, I do think that he's going to, like Steve kind of said, he's going to build a roster around that. I don't think he's going to go superstar. So I could see him go get an Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback and then fill the Aaron Rodgers along with the Kenyon Drake potentially. I could see even Todd Gurley. These are the kind of guys that he goes for. These are guys who are proven, but people think they're on their back end. But you get them for cheaper because everybody's assuming that they're on the back end of their career, and those guys just do just enough to win you games. So I truly think that that's what you're going to see from Sean. And yeah, I actually agree with Steve. I do think Sean is going to make the playoffs this year, assuming he doesn't change his draft strategy. I know, I'm sorry, but the way this man drafts, this is perfect for him.
It is. It's literally the perfect system for him to draft it.
Sean, just so you know, this is all love that Anthony's giving you right now, just so you know. All right, last team we're going to go up with, the Daunting Ducks. I'm going to go over their roster. The keeper options, Russell Wilson at 15, Le'Veon Bell at 42, Adam Thielen at 32, Latavius Murray at 6, TJ Hawkinson, whatever his name is, at 3, Miles Sanders at 10, Tyler Boyd at 9, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown at 1, Peyton Barber at 1, Vikings defense at 2, N'Keal Harry at 8, and then Josh Howard at 10. I actually predict he's not going to make any trades because this man never responds to me or anybody. So I think he's going to go with Russell Wilson, Miles Sanders, and Hollywood Brown, and he's going to have $154 left over. What do I say about this? I think his season is going to, if he does this, it's going to really come down to what happens with Miles Sanders. Are they going to unleash Miles Sanders? If they unleash him, then I do think he can be a problem because I think Marquise Brown is going to get better than what he was last year. Russell Wilson, he's going to be Russell Wilson. You know, you'll see him at about week 6 or 7. He'll be ready to go and start putting up big numbers. So you just have to hold it down until then. But yeah, I think on his end, I would like to see him go out and make a bigger splash. So when I say a bigger splash, he should be in the running for a Kamara. He should be in the running for Kenyon Drake, you know, those type of guys, Michael Thomas. Whether he'll do it or not, I don't know. He's a numbers guy. He's always been that. I think he does accounting. That's his career. So he's a big numbers guy. So sometimes he'll overthink it, but it's all going to come down to Miles Sanders, regardless how he drafts, in my opinion. Anthony.
I can't argue with it. Like, no matter what he does, he can't come up off Russell. That's insane. Like, he has to stay. I don't trust that Jets off. I mean, he's carried Le'Veon Bell for 2 years now. I don't trust that Jets offense to really do anything. So, yeah, he can go. And I think you're right. I mean, when I was looking at his roster, I was thinking the same exact thing. Miles Sanders is probably his best option. Like, they have other guys back there. They pulled out Boston Scott and some other dudes last year. But you don't get this guy to Penn State and not think that he's going to be a lead dog. I don't see any other option for him keeping that. Like, I want to say that tight ends are plentiful, but it's not enough to put any kind of money towards Hawkinson. And all the other guys just kind of just fluff. Like, I'm not spending that money on Harry. Like, of course, I wouldn't spend 50 cents on Peyton Barber, so you're not going to keep him for anything. He's just not special. You got two special guys. You got one guy that's special in Russell and one guy that could be special in Miles Sanders. Like I said, one guy's 15, one guy's 10. It leaves you with a lot of capital after that, so it just makes a whole lot of sense to go that fashion.
Yeah, just really,
kind of the same.
And just really quick, Steve, before you jump on, in my conversation with Jose last year, his whole goal last year was to get keeper options. He wanted to go young. He wanted these young guys. So if he doesn't keep Miles Sanders and Marquise Brown, then his draft last year makes it look that much worse, because that was his whole point. He said it was his rebuilding year last year. Well, okay, you've rebuilt. Now it's time to actually keep those guys that you were trying to build around. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, no, I think this is the first year you're really going to see who he is, because you guys got to remember, he's been carrying Le'Veon Bell, and I believe he's been carrying one other person, either between Wilson or Thielen, for quite some time. You know what I mean? So he's always worked with a small cap in comparison, which is I'm assuming why he's never picked up the phone to do deals, because in the past those guys have eaten up so much of his cap. To your point, he has been saying that, and you kind of see like a lot of these dollar guys that he took a flyer on, which you could see, like Hawkinson, he could have went with him. Obviously you have to keep Russell Wilson. I agree with you guys there. And then, Hollywood Brown just makes, the most sense, because I do think Brown's going to be a stud receiver. He's going to get better and better. So Jose's really a wild card for me, because I feel in the past couple of years we really didn't get to see. He is very mathematical, and I noticed that last year, because on certain big guys he was big on, but he had a number, and he did stop at a certain point. Absolutely. So I did pick up on that. What's interesting to me is he doesn't have a third of his cap eaten anymore. He's now moving away from that. So we're really going to see, how is he really going to draft? Because we've always seen him with a short stack. Now we're going to see him with a medium to a high amount of money behind him. And how is he going to leverage that and use that? So I can't say that he's going to be a playoff team right away, because I need to see more from him, and I need to see this draft in particular. Yeah. But he seems like he's got a plan, and he's been sticking to it. So it's going to be interesting to see what he comes up with. I'd like him to get some better value at running back in this draft than he has in past years. I know Le'Veon Bell, you couldn't say no to him because he was going to a new team, but I would like to see, like he picked up Peyton Barber and some of these other guys, and I know he had another running back that didn't work out for him last year that he ended up moving or cutting. So those are the types of things that I'd like to see. Does he get better at this year in terms of having a solid running back? And then on top of that extra money to build a core roster around everything else. If he can do that, then I would say he could be a solid team.
You're too professional. Have some fun.
So sometimes I wish that you guys would see them, because him and Sean, me, him, Sean, Gabe, we're all in the same room during the draft day. And him and Sean are with their pens and papers, and and you could just see them crunching numbers, especially Jose. There's just something you could just tell whenever he's in on a player, because he's crunching those numbers, writing stuff down. It's really, really awesome to see. So I really am curious to see how he's going to do. I get nervous when I look at the roster, but at the same time, this is the first year we're going to really see how he can draft.
Yeah, he's never had an anchor. He's always had an anchor around his neck. Because we would have questioned him last year had he not kept Bell.
Absolutely.
Bell, even going to the Jets, nobody really knew the Jets, and you thought, hey, if he could do it for Pittsburgh, he'll take a step back, but we didn't think it would be that much. I don't think anybody had that. And had he known, I would have guaranteed you he probably would have moved them. So you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying we can't really diss the daunting Ducks yet. This is the first year where we're going to put him under the scope. And I'm telling you right now, Jose, we're going to judge your GMing skills based on this year, because you got no more excuses left. You got cap and you got players. So we watch it.
And on that, we're going to get ahead. We're going to take our break. We just did the East. We're going to come back and do the West. I'm going to allow Anthony to finish up. Brushing his teeth. And we will be right back. Thank you all.
Gotta fight tooth decay.